Hello guys, welcome to another session in TestNG series training. In this session we will talk about TestNG.xml structure. Okay, if you remember in the previous class we have created one TestNG.xml file, and by adding this class name as annotation test, we ran the test methods defined in that class, and we were able to see those tests executed, and the result has been printed in the console. Okay, in this session what we will do is we will go to each line of this XML file and see what each of those lines mean. Okay, so let's jump on to our IntelliJ, and this is our testng.xml, and the very first line in this XML what we see is called XML declaration. Okay, the opening and closing angular brackets with question marks and the tag specified as XML mean this is an XML document. Okay, and it has two attributes, so these are the highlighted text in blue is called attributes. Okay, these are attributes and these are values. Okay, and these it contains two attributes, one is version, the other one is encoding. Okay, so the version of the XML which we are using here is 1.0 or 1.0. okay, and the encoding type UTF-8. So this version has many later versions of XML, but there is no harm in using the XML version 1, and in majority of the XMLs we notice version as 1, so we can also use 1 as the version. And encoding UTF-8, this declares the character encoding used in this XML file. Okay, UTF-8 is a widely used encoding format that supports a broad range of characters including special characters, so it is always preferred to use UTF-8. Okay, and though this has been written in the very beginning of this XML file, this is an optional line. Okay, if you remove this, even then the tests run fine. Okay, so if we let us try to run this with this by keeping this line on here. We see our tests getting executed. All right, now let us remove this tag and rerun the TestNG XML file again, and now as you see we were able to still run the test even without that line. But if you may ask, like, do we really need to write that line? If it is not mandatory, why should we write it, right? I know even I had that question in the very beginning, but coding is all about practicing following some standards. So this is the best way of following the standards specified for a XML version. So it is always advised to follow this rule and have that line in the very beginning of the XML file, even though it is optional. Okay, yeah, coming to the next line here, it is document type declaration. Okay, so it specifies what is the root element of our XML file, and what are the rules this XML file should follow. Okay, so when we look at the root element of this file, it is suit. So that's the reason we have mentioned the root element of this XML file is suit here, and the rules which using which we should write the XML structure, or we should follow in order to run this testng.xml file, or the rules to which we should abide and write this XML file are defined here. Okay, so if we go and try to access this particular URL in any browser, right, so it is trying to download a file. Okay, so for now I trust this document, so I'm saying keep it, and I want to open it to see the contents of this file. Okay, so here is the content in that rules defined by testng.org. Okay, and in this we will see what is the basic structure of this XML, what tags to be written, and where all these rules are defined here. And if we misplace or if we shuffle the tags, then we might see some errors in running our testng.xml, and sometimes even our testng.xml file will not be running at all. So if you have some time and if you want to go explore this particular rules document, you can also download it by passing this URL in the browser, downloading and opening it in your favorite editor. Okay, all right. The next tag here is suit tag. So suit is the root tag for any testng.xml. Okay, so we have to start our testng.xml with a suit tag. All right, so unless in these cases where we have opening and closing angular braces defined in the same line, here we define these tags separately. So from now on, whatever be that tag we write from line number 3 or could be line number 4 as well, right? Whatever we write starting from this line should have a end tag. Okay, in this case, this is a suit tag which has started at line number 4, and this suit tag is ending on line number 10. And how do we know that this is an ending suit tag, right? So that is by looking at this forward slash. So whatever tag, these tag names are custom, right? Or that could be any thing in general, and that should have a closing tag. Say suppose if I want to write something as tag ABC, now there should be an end tag for that one, and that end tag can be ABC. Okay, right? End tag can be an ABC, and within this end tag, open and close tags, you can have multiple tags, and these open and end tags can be written in the same line as well. But if it has multiple lines, then it can be separated into different lines. So that's what we are seeing. So suit is the root tag, and within that suit we have multiple other tags written, and the beginning of the suit tag does not have a forward slash, but the ending tag contains a forward slash. Okay, and this suit tag, like XML declaration, has one attribute defined, that is name. So name is the attribute here, and the value of that name what we have written is all test suit. Okay, and what is the use of this one? In our output, test output, we can see the name of that suit getting printed here. So this name can further be used for reporting purposes, but we are not there yet. But just to keep in mind, so we can name our suits. Okay, so this name can be anything. I can write annotation test. Annotation test. Annotation test, and I will remove these ABC tags, and let us run this. Right, now we see annotation test getting printed here, whereas previously it was all test suit. Now the name has changed to annotation test, and there are couple of other attributes which we can write, but for now let us keep it to one attribute, which is name. All right, okay. The next tag immediately following suit tag is test tag. Okay, even this test tag like suit tag has a closing test tag. Okay, it has again attributes verbose, preserve order, and name. So these are the three attributes we gave them. So verbose here we mentioned as two, right? So why do we use this verbose is that that detail of the logging information, right, is dependent on this verbose value. Okay, so for the verbose value as 2, here this is what we are looking at. Let me take a screenshot of this. So this is output when we used verbose 2, but let us change this value to maybe 5 and run the test again. Alright, let us compare the previous screenshot with the current console output. Alright, so if we have noticed here, we are seeing some additional lines, invoked methods, right? That information is not available in our previous screenshot, right? See here, that was missing. So why? Because we are asking TestNG.xml to add more details to our test execution by specifying or by increasing the value of this verbose attribute. Okay, if we want more details on the test executions we do, then we have to increase the number or give a higher number as a verbose value. Okay, and where does this useful is like for debugging purposes. If something is failing, or if you want to see the execution how it is taking place, right, in those cases for more logging information we use this verbose value or attribute. Okay, for now I'll be changing that back to 2. Preserve order is true, right? This is another attribute. What we are specifying or forcing this testng.xml is execute the tests in the order they are specified. Okay, we want testng.xml to execute the tests in the order they are specified. Okay, here at the moment we have only one test, which is annotation test, so we won't be able to see that. But if say suppose if we have more number of test classes, say it's like 10, 15, 20, so at the time we will see this very helpful to preserve the order of the execution. Okay, which further helps in creating dependency on the tests. So one test can be waiting or dependent on a different test, right? So those things can be maintained by using this preserve order attribute. For now, this is sufficient to know about preserve order, but there is a separate session where we will see these dependencies. Okay, name annotation test, right? So this annotation test is the name we have given to this particular test case. Say suppose if we have more number of test tags or tests, then we can name each test with something different to uniquely identify those test cases. Okay, now the other tag which is immediately followed the test tag is classes. So classes is the tag where we specify what are the classes or test classes to be considered for this execution. Okay, and likewise suit and test, this classes tag also has a end tag. Okay, and these classes tag is again having a class tag. Okay, so this is where we are defining what is the class that needs to be executed. Okay, so here at the moment we have only one class, so that's the reason we have written one class as annotation test to be executed. But say suppose if we have another class, we will write it down here as well. Okay, so next when we run this, it will run those two classes. All right, so ignore this error for the moment, and we will come back to multiple classes executions in the later sessions. Okay, and unlike suit, test and classes, this class tag doesn't have an end tag, because we are not incorporating more tests or more yeah, more tests that needs to be executed as part of this class. So that's the reason we are ending the class tag in the same line by specifying the forward slash. If this particular tag is ending on the same line, then we need not have to repeat as class. Okay, if we try to write, that will throw an error. And also if you want to include, if you want to add an end tag, we can still specify this one, which is acceptable, which can be accepted. Okay, and still the test runs fine. Okay, but why to write this extra tag which is looking awkward without any tests defined within this test class? So that's the reason we will remove that, and we will end the tag there itself with a forward slash. Okay, this class can have a different this class can still have an end tag if we write some methods within this class, and that example we will see in the following class. Okay, but for now this is about the TestNG.xml structure, and this is the structure that needs to be followed. And if you have noticed one thing here, the order in which we write this tags like suit, test, classes, class. So you might have noticed one thing, that is when we ran the tests before, right, either by right clicking on this annotation test class or by running this testng.xml class, even though we have written this before suit method, before test method, before class method, etc. at different locations, but not in the particular order it has been printed, right, it is still printing in this order, exact order, right, as before suit method first, then before test method, then before class method, and then before method, right, so in a particular order. And if you notice this testng.xml structure, this XML structure has been written in the same way these annotations were executed. Okay, so this is the order of the execution of the annotations. No matter what, wherever you write this before suit method, right, in this case before suit was written somewhere in between here at the 35th line, right, but still it got executed first, right. So wherever we write this, before suit is the annotation that gets executed first. Likewise, wherever we write test annotation, right, before test annotation, that will be the code executes second, that is after suit method, and followed by class and then method. So that is the structure in which we also write our testng.xml, or these rules specified by testng.org forces us to write our testng.xml in the same order. Okay, I know this is a lengthy session, but it is worth understanding the TestNG.xml structure. Hope you learned and feeling comfortable now about TestNG.xml. All right, see you in the next class.